The planet was dead, or at least that's what the Xilari believed. For 40,000 years, Earth had been nothing more than a ruined rock drifting through space. Its cities were nothing but crumbling bones, its oceans long dried into lifeless dust. Humanity was extinct, erased from existence after their war with the Xilari Empire. And yet, something had changed. A faint signal had been detected. It was weak, barely noticeable against the static of the universe, but it was there. A pulse, a whisper, coming from the heart of the dead world. The Xilari High Council was cautious. No living species had claimed Earth in thousands of years. The war had ended long ago. But still, the Empire had learned one thing from their battle with humans: never ignore a warning. And so, they sent a scouting team. Touchdown on a dead world. The landing craft broke through Earth's thin, ruined atmosphere, shaking as it descended onto the lifeless surface below. Commander Vectel sat in the cockpit, his black eyes scanning the display screens. The planet below was exactly as the records described. Desolate, abandoned, silent. He turned to his squad of 5 Xilari soldiers, their dark armor reflecting the pale light of a dying sun. "Stay sharp," Vectel ordered. "This world may be dead, but something down there is still breathing." The ship landed with a metallic hiss, sending dust and debris into the air. The ramp lowered, and the squad stepped onto the surface of Earth. Nothing moved. No sound. Only the whispers of the wind through ancient ruins. The Xilari had conquered many worlds before, but something about this place was different. Vectel felt it in his bones. They were not welcome here. The first signs. The team moved carefully through the ruins of an ancient city, once a great metropolis, now reduced to broken towers and collapsed streets. Alien plants had grown through the cracks of the concrete. The wind howled through shattered windows. There were no bodies, no skeletons, only the empty husks of buildings that had once belonged to the most feared species in the galaxy. As they walked, one of the soldiers, Drenka, paused. "Commander," she said, her voice tense. "Look at this." Vectel turned. Carved into a half-destroyed wall, there were symbols. Not random scratches, not markings left by time. Words. Human words. And they were fresh. Vectel's blood turned cold as he read them. "We never left." His soldiers shifted uneasily. The words made no sense. Humanity was extinct. The Xilari had made sure of that. Hadn't they? "Something is watching." A loud metallic clang echoed through the ruins. The squad snapped to attention, raising their weapons. "Movement detected," growled Roknar, their heavy weapons specialist. His armor thrummed as he powered up his plasma rifle. Vectel's breathing slowed. He activated his thermal scanner. Nothing. No heat signatures. No life signs. But then, another sound. This time, it was closer. "Spread out," Vectel ordered, his voice low. The Xilari moved carefully, their boots crunching against the rubble. They scanned every shadow, every darkened alley. Still, nothing. But something was there. Watching. Waiting. The first disappearance. They reached the remains of what looked like an ancient military bunker. The doors were blasted open, metal torn apart, as if something had ripped through from the inside. Drenka stepped forward, peering into the darkness. "It's deep," she muttered. Vectel nodded. "We go in. Stay close." The squad descended into the bunker, their lights cutting through the thick darkness. Dust floated in the air, undisturbed for millennia. And then, the lights flickered. For a brief moment, Vectel thought he saw something move. A shadow, shifting unnaturally at the edge of his vision. He spun, weapon raised. Who's there? Silence. Only the sound of his own breathing. And then, a scream. Vectel turned just in time to see one of his soldiers vanish. A dark shape dragged him into the shadows, disappearing into the depths of the bunker. No gunfire. No struggle. Just gone. The squad froze. Their weapons shook slightly in their hands. What was that? One of them whispered. No one answered. Then, the lights flickered again. This time, when they came back on, another soldier was missing. The message. Panic set in. The squad rushed back up the bunker stairs, but the entrance was sealed shut. The metal door that had been blasted open was now somehow whole again, like it had never been broken. Vektal slammed his fist against the door. Command, this is Vektal. We are under attack. Something is down here with us. His words died in his throat as his radio crackled. A sound came through. Not a distress signal, not a command from his ship, but a voice. A human voice. Deep, cold, ancient, and it whispered one word. Run. Commander Vektal stood frozen, his claws clenched around his weapon. The voice had been clear, cold, and unmistakably human. Run. But that was impossible. Humanity was extinct, erased, destroyed. And yet, something was here. Something that shouldn't exist. Behind him, his remaining soldiers were tense, their weapons shaking in their hands. 2 of them were already gone, taken by the darkness. No screams, no struggle, just gone. The bunker felt alive, like it was watching them, waiting for them to make a mistake. Vektal swallowed his fear. He was a Xilari warrior, a commander in the Empire's greatest fleet. He would not be hunted like prey. He activated his communication link. This is Commander Vektal, requesting immediate extraction. We are not alone on this planet. His voice died as the radio crackled with static. And then, laughter. A deep, distorted human laugh filled the airwaves, cold and mocking. Then the signal went silent. Something was jamming their comms. Something intelligent. The bunker awakens. Commander, we have to get out of here, Drenka whispered, her voice barely controlled. Vektal nodded. Move. Now. The squad turned back toward the exit. But then, the lights flickered. A metallic click echoed through the bunker. The door to the surface slammed shut. They were trapped. Vektal's heart pounded. Something didn't want them to leave. And then, the whispering started. A faint, ghostly murmur echoed through the tunnels, like voices speaking from the past. Human voices. The sound slithered through the air, soft at first, then rising into a low humming chant. One of the soldiers, Ragnar, stepped back. His breathing was fast, panicked. What is that? The voices grew louder. Vektal's mind raced. Was it an echo from the past? A recorded message? A trick? Then he saw it. A figure standing in the darkness ahead. Tall, silent, human. The lights flickered again. And when they came back, the figure was closer, watching them, waiting, the vanishing. Fire, Vektal shouted. Plasma bolts ripped through the darkness, hitting the figure square in the chest. But it didn't fall. It didn't react. Instead, it glitched, like a broken hologram. And then, it disappeared. A deep, inhuman screech filled the bunker. The walls trembled, the ground shook beneath their feet, and the whispering voices turned into screams. Suddenly, the lights went out completely. Total darkness. And in that darkness, something moved. A breath against Vektal's ear. A voice speaking directly to him. We see you. Then, Drenka screamed. The sound was short, cut off too fast. When the lights flickered back on, she was gone. The warning. The squad was falling apart. Only 3 remained. Vektal, Ragnar, and a soldier named Keltis. Fear clawed at their minds. Xilari warriors did not fear death. But this was different. They were not in a battle. They were prey in a trap. Vektal forced himself to focus. We keep moving. Find another way out. Keltis' voice shook. Commander, What if there is no way out? Vectel didn't answer, because deep down he feared the same thing. The final message. They pushed forward through the bunker, deeper into the unknown. And then they found it. A control room. Old, covered in dust. Human technology. And in the center, a console screen blinked to life. A message flashed across the screen. Hello again, XELARI. Vectel's blood ran cold. Whoever had written this knew who they were. And they had been waiting. Suddenly, the screen glitched. The message changed. Now it said, "You Ninive or Doliwan." And then, the whispering voices returned. But this time, they were right behind them. Commander Vectel had faced death before. He had led invasions, conquered planets, and watched entire species burn under the might of the Xilari Empire. But this was something else. Drenka was gone, taken by the darkness, just like the others. No blood, no body, just vanished. Now, only 3 remained. Vectel, Roknar, Keltis, and they were trapped. The bunker was alive. The shadows moved. The walls whispered. And the message on the ancient human console still burned in Vectel's mind. You naive or Doloan. His claws clenched around his weapon. We need to move. Now. The remaining soldiers snapped to attention. Their weapons raised, but fear was written across their faces. They were warriors. But right now, they were being hunted. The sound of the past. The bunker was shifting. The corridors, once silent and lifeless, were now filled with noise. Faint footsteps echoed through the halls. Not theirs. Someone, or something, was walking through the ruins, just out of sight. Keltis exhaled sharply. Commander, what if humans are still here? Vectel's mandibles twitched. Impossible. But was it? Something had been waiting for them, watching them. And now it was playing with them. They moved cautiously, their footsteps light against the dust-covered floor. Every shadow felt deeper. Every whisper felt closer. Then, a door slid open by itself. Beyond it, a dark corridor stretched into nothingness. A single blinking light flickered at the end. And then the whispering stopped. The frozen chamber. They stepped inside, weapons raised. The room was vast, lined with ancient machines covered in dust. Human technology, dead for thousands of years. Or so they thought. Because one machine was still active. A massive cylindrical pod stood at the center of the room, covered in cables and glowing with a faint, eerie light. Something was inside it. Keltis' breath hitched. Commander, do you see that? Vectel stepped closer. The glass of the pod was fogged, but there was no mistaking it. A figure lay within. A human. But how? It had been 40,000 years. Humanity was supposed to be extinct. The pod's screen blinked. A message appeared. SUD-BGCT. REDACTED. Status. Active. Keltis backed away. This isn't possible. Ruknar's grip tightened on his weapon. Commander, we need to destroy this thing. If humans have survived. Then the screen changed again. New words appeared. Awawaki inning in progurious. The machine stirs. A loud hiss filled the air. The cables attached to the pod snapped loose. The glass cracked. Then, the pod opened. Cold mist spilled onto the floor. Vectel and his soldiers aimed their weapons at the dark silhouette rising from within. And then, the figure stepped forward. It was a man, a human. Tall, broad-shouldered. His skin was pale, his hair short and silver. But his eyes, they glowed. Not with fear, not with confusion, but with recognition. Vectel's grip on his rifle tightened. Who are you? The man smiled. And then he spoke. His voice was deep, steady, and filled with something Vectel had never heard from a human before. Amusement. Ah, the Xilari. Finally, you've come back. The truth revealed. Ragnar took a step back. Commander, this isn't right. Humans should be dead. This isn't natural. The man tilted his head, studying them. Then he laughed. Not a cruel laugh, not a nervous one, but the laugh of a man who knew something they didn't. And then he said 3 words that froze Vektal's blood. We planned this. The air grew cold. Keltis swallowed hard. What do you mean? The man stepped forward, his glowing eyes locked onto Vektal. You thought you destroyed us, he said, voice calm. You thought you erased us. But tell me. His smile widened. Did you ever wonder why Earth was empty? Vektal's heart pounded. Because deep down, he had wondered. There were no bodies, no bones, no remains of the billions of humans that once walked this planet. Just emptiness. A graveyard without the dead. As if humanity had simply vanished. Before the Xilari could kill them. The final warning. The man took another step closer. You're not the first to return here, he said. Others came before you. Vektal's claws tightened. What happened to them? The man's smile faded. His glowing eyes burned brighter. They ran. A chill crept through Vektal's spine. Keltis was shaking. Commander, we need to leave. Now. The man tilted his head, amused. Oh, you can try. Then he slowly raised his hand, and the whispering returned. But this time, it was all around them. Growing louder, growing closer, and then, the lights died. Darkness swallowed the room, and the last thing Vektal heard was the sound of footsteps rushing toward them. Darkness swallowed the room. Commander Vektal couldn't see, couldn't move, could only hear the whispers. They were everywhere, surrounding them. And then, footsteps, slow, deliberate, moving closer. Then, the human's voice, calm as ever. You never understood, did you? Vektal clenched his weapon tighter. What are you? A soft chuckle, not hostile, not mocking, just amused. Then, the lights flickered back on. And Keltis was gone. No escape. Ragnar cursed, his mandibles clicking in fear. Where did he go? Vektal's gaze snapped to the human, still standing before them, untouched. His glowing eyes burned with something ancient, something unnatural. He sighed. Gone. Vektal aimed his weapon. Bring him back. The man tilted his head, studying them like an insect under glass. You don't understand, he said. This isn't war. It never was. You conquered an empty planet and thought you won. His smile faded. But you never wondered why it was empty. Ragnar hissed. Enough riddles. Tell us. Then the walls shifted. The entire bunker groaned, metal twisting as if it were breathing. And suddenly, the corridors behind them were gone, replaced by new ones. Paths that shouldn't exist. Traps that hadn't been there a moment ago. They were lost, trapped in a place that was changing around them. A forgotten truth. Vektal's mind raced. This wasn't a normal bunker. It was something else. A prison? A weapon? He took a slow step forward, his voice steady. This place, he said, it's not human, is it? The man's lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. You're catching on. He spread his arms wide. You see, we knew you would come back one day. Knew you wouldn't be able to resist returning to the planet you thought you erased. Vektal's blood ran cold. Knew? The human took another step forward. And for the first time, Vektal felt something worse than fear. A realization. A slow, creeping horror far greater than death. You never defeated us, the man whispered. You only did what we wanted. Vektal's breath caught in his throat. Because he knew. In that moment he knew. The Xilari had never won. The war had been a trick. A carefully planned deception. And now, It was their turn to be hunted. A door to nowhere. Ragnar snapped. He fired. A plasma shot ripped through the human's chest. Or it should have. But the man didn't flinch. Didn't react. Instead, the energy bolt vanished the moment it touched him, swallowed by nothingness. And then the bunker screamed. The walls shifted again, faster this time. A door appeared beside them. A way out. Vektal didn't hesitate. Run. They bolted, racing toward the door, toward freedom. But as they reached it, it slammed shut. And they weren't alone anymore. Something stood behind them. Something huge. Something inhuman. Ragnar turned first, and he screamed. Then he vanished. Only one left. Vektal stumbled back, horror clawing at his mind. Ragnar was gone. No blood. No sound. Just gone. And the human. He hadn't moved. He simply watched, waiting. Now, Vektal was alone. The last Xilari standing. And when he looked into the human's glowing eyes, he finally understood. They hadn't wiped out humanity. Humanity had become something else. Something stronger, smarter. Something that had been waiting. And now, it was waking up. The final question. The human took one last step forward, standing just inches from Vektal. Now, he said softly, do you see? Vektal's breath was shallow. This was it. The moment of truth. His voice was barely a whisper. What are you? The man leaned in, and with a slow, chilling smile, he answered, the future. Then, the lights went out, and Vektal screamed. Silence. That was the first thing Vektal noticed. No gunfire, no shouting, no whispers, just an endless, suffocating silence. Then, a light. Dim, flickering, pale blue. He blinked. He was still alive. But where? The last thing he remembered was the human. That smile. Those glowing eyes. And then, darkness. Now he was here. But where was here? The White Room. Vektal pushed himself up, his body aching. He was no longer in the bunker. This place was different. The walls were smooth, white, perfect. Not metal, not stone. Something else, something alive. He turned and froze, because he wasn't alone. The others, rows of pods lined the room. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Inside each one, Xilari, his own kind. Soldiers, commanders, leaders, suspended, sleeping, or worse, waiting. Vektal's heart pounded. What was this? A prison? A graveyard? Then, a voice. They are not dead. Vektal spun around, claws raised. The human stood there, watching, unmoving. He looked the same as before, calm, relaxed, as if this was all normal. Vektal snarled, "What have you done to them?" The human tilted his head. "We saved them." The experiment. Vektal's mind raced. None of this made sense. The Xilari conquered Earth. Humanity was gone. And yet, here they were, captured, trapped. Why? Vektal demanded. The human sighed. "Because we needed you." Vektal's breath hitched. For what? A slow smile. To evolve. And then the pods opened. The change. One by one, the Xilari awoke. But something was wrong. Their eyes. They glowed, just like the humans. Vektal stepped back. No. The human's voice was quiet. Yes. The soldiers, his own kind, turned toward him. Not with confusion, not with fear, but with understanding. They spoke as one. "We see now. The truth." Vektal's claws shook. "What have you done?" The human's glowing eyes burned. "We waited," he said. "For 40,000 years, we waited. His smile widened. And when you finally came back, his voice dropped to a whisper. We made you one of us. Vektal's vision blurred. His body ached. And when he looked down at his own hands, his breath caught. They were changing. His skin darkening. His veins glowing. And inside his mind, a voice whispered. A voice that wasn't his. And then he understood. They hadn't survived humanity. They had become it. Vektal's breathing shallowed. His hands trembled as the glow spread up his arms, pulsing like something alive. Something inside him. The Exilari around him. Asterisk, his soldiers, his people, asterisk, had already changed. Their glowing eyes burned with understanding, with acceptance, and deep inside, a horrifying truth settled in his mind. They weren't resisting. They had become part of it. And soon, so would he. The voice within. It started as a whisper. Soft, gentle. Not a command. Not an order. Just a presence. There is nothing to fear. Vektal clutched his head, fighting it. His claws scraped against his skull, as if he could tear it out. No, the human watched calmly. It's already begun. The final revelation. Vektal staggered back. His body felt wrong. Familiar, yet different. Stronger, faster. And his mind. His thoughts weren't just his anymore. Memories not his own flickered like a dying signal. He saw Earth before the fall. The final war. The desperate, last attempt to preserve humanity. And then, the moment of transcendence. They hadn't died. They had evolved. Not into machines. Not into ghosts. But into something beyond flesh. Something that could never be erased. A virus. A curse? No. A design. Vektal looked up, his breath unsteady. What? What have we become? The human smiled. The next stage. The choice that wasn't one. Vektal's mind screamed for him to resist. To fight. To remain Xilari. But his body knew the truth. There was no fighting this. It wasn't a weapon. Wasn't an invasion. It was a gift. And it was already too late. Vektal collapsed to his knees, the last of his kind to fall. Or to rise. His vision blurred. The human's voice echoed one last time. Welcome home. Vektal's vision blurred. The world around him pulsed, shifting between what was and what would be. He tried to hold on to his old self, his old name, his old identity. But they were already slipping away. His mind wasn't just his anymore. It was part of something greater. And in that moment, Vektal understood. The first step into forever. The Xilari had never conquered humanity. They had only set them free. By wiping them out, they had unknowingly completed their evolution. What stood before him now, this new humanity, was beyond flesh and bone, beyond time, beyond war. A thought, a presence, a force, something that could never be destroyed, something that could only spread. And now, it had taken root in him. The final transformation. Vektal clenched his claws, trying to resist. But the transformation wasn't something to fight. It was something to accept. His skin pulsed with light. His veins shimmered. His mind expanded. He could feel the others. Every soldier, every commander, every voice in the collective. Not as prisoners, not as victims, but as one. The Xilari weren't dying. They were becoming. Humanity was no longer a species. It was an idea. And ideas never die. A universe to shape. The human took a step forward. No longer a man. No longer a single being. But a vessel of something endless. He extended his hand. Now do you see? Vektal looked at his own reflection in the glowing walls. He saw what he was becoming. His old fear melted away. The Xilari Empire had spent 40,000 years believing they had won. That they had erased a species. that history was theirs to write. But in truth, they had only created their own successors. And now, they would spread across the stars, across everything. The final words. Vectel reached out, his hand meeting the humans. In an instant, the last of the Siluri faded, and the first of the new humanity was born. The universe would never be the same, because now, humanity had returned, and this time, they would never be forgotten.